Good morning, Wright State University, and welcome to the Wright Morning Show on WWSU. Start your day the right way with us. We will be covering current events in the news, local, national, and from Wright State. We will provide a daily dose of inspiration and positivity to lighten your day. And we will have a special feature depending on the day of the week. So grab your tea or your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the Wright Morning Show. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of the Wright Morning Show on WWSU 106.9. It is Wednesday, October the 6th, 2021 on WWSU Radio. In the studio with me, I have Jamie from the Guardian Media Group. How are you doing this morning, Jamie?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you for asking.
Awesome. We might have Harmony joining us. She has not yet called in. Actually, as soon as I said that, she is calling in. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I am awake.
Awesome. So we got Harmony joining on the phone line for the Wright Morning Show. With that being said, let us begin our current events. So we will begin with Dayton, Oregon District Restaurant Owners Uptown Centerville plan has been okayed, according to the Dayton Daily News. You can read more from Dayton Daily. From WHIO, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is to conduct fighter jet training this morning.
Oh, boy.
Yep.
Look out.
That's going to be super loud because Wright State is so close to the base.
Right?
Sonic boom.
So some Miami Valley residents could hear fighter jets from the Ohio Air National Guard today while they conduct training. Fighter jets from the 180th Fighter Wing, based in the Toledo area, are testing the Aerospace Control Alert System from 8 a.m. until about 10:30 a.m. Anyone living in and around Dayton, Middletown, Springfield, and Marysville could see or hear the jets during the training, according to a spokesperson for the Ohio Air National Guard. Aerospace control is used for maintaining air sovereignty and air defense through the surveillance and control of airspace over Canada and the U.S., a spokesperson said in a media release.
I think that's what I heard flying over at 6:30 this morning.
Maybe. From WHIO, deputies searching for a Greene County inmate who took corrections officer's uniform escaped custody. Uh-oh.
Oops.
Deputies are currently searching for a Greene County jail inmate who walked away from a work detail and has not been accounted for since 1 p.m. Tuesday, according to a spokesperson for the Greene County Sheriff's Office. Deputies are looking for Adriel Parks, Sr., 43, who was last seen in the downtown Xenia area. Deputy said it appears Parks took a corrections officer uniform and could still be wearing it. He's described as a white man around 6 feet 2 inches tall with brown hair and brown eyes. Deputies ask if you see Parks to call 911 immediately. You can read more at WHIO about that. From the Springfield News Song, Wright-Patterson and Springfield Air Base are part of a $40 billion overall economic impact on Ohio, which will have a $19.4 billion gross economic impact, helping support 103,000 jobs, according to statewide analysis. The analysis shows statewide federal and military installations like the Springfield Air National Guard Base have nearly $70 billion in gross impact on Ohio's economy and support more than 380,000 jobs. Military and federal spending support about 6% of the state's overall economy. For more information and a table of those economic impacts by industry, you could go to springfieldnewssun.com. From WDTN, are you starting a business? Staff at a new Dayton establishment can help you. The Fireblocks District is getting a new business that will help set aspiring entrepreneurs up for success. Dayton entrepreneur community event planner Ty Winston opened the doors to the Entrepreneurs Connection Tuesday evening in hopes of guiding others through the complex startup process. I was an entrepreneur at one time that didn't have help, and there was no one, she said. I had to read up on things, and I was self-taught. I kind of don't want entrepreneurs that are coming out today to have to deal with what I did, so I'm just trying to bridge that gap and be that support person that they've been needing. The facility includes classrooms, a co-working space, a podcasting room, and a cafe.
Nice.
There you go, Harmony.
Yeah, I know.
For more information, you could go to WDTN.com. Dayton Daily News has an article on the 4 finalists for the Dayton's Top Cop job, so check that out. From WHIO, 4 are injured after a crash at Greene County. I remember reading about this last night because I was hearing a bunch of sirens and then realized that there was a crash. Actually, this is a different crash. So 4 people were injured after a crash in Greene County. According to Trooper Jason Whitner with the Ohio State Highway Patrol, the crash happened after a vehicle failed to yield at a stop sign on Bath Road and pulled into State Route 4. This is a different crash. There was one on I-75 last night as well. The vehicle was then struck by another vehicle traveling southbound. 4 injuries reported, including 3 minor and 1 serious but non-life-threatening. Let's see here. WDTN, Beaver Creek residents are to receive over 100 free trees. Hundreds of trees will be given to Beaver Creek residents on Sunday, October 23rd to help the area recover from the Memorial Day tornadoes. State Farm pledged $1 million to the Arbor Day Foundation as part of a joint effort to help areas affected by natural disasters recover. Trees can help make communities more resilient in the face of extreme weather, said Mary Kay Quist, State Farm's Vice President of Agency Sales. Residents could choose from 4 tree varieties: red maple, Shumard red oak, northern white cedar, and Kentucky coffee tree.
Take the oak.
Oak trees are very strong.
Sturdy,
that's for sure.
very
Yeah.
sturdy. Yeah, maples, their roots are like up on the ground, so not so much. But yeah.
I'm going to pass the mic now over to Jamie for some local news. Jamie, what do you got for us?
Let's see. So, I thought this one was pretty cool. New Wright Brothers look-alike airplane being tested locally before soaring worldwide.
Nice.
A recreation of history will soar above local skies before it takes off at other destinations worldwide. All volunteer, not-for-profit corporation Wright Bee Flyer completed its first test of a new Wright Bee Flyer look-alike airplane at the Dayton Wright Brothers Airport in Miami Township on Saturday. The flight is a result of the 5-year project to build a new Wright look-alike airplane for educational and interpretive purposes, according to Don Adams, the organization's president. So if you want to read more about that, that's also on Dayton Daily News. But I thought that was very cool.
Very, very cool, yeah.
I know, like, there's a replica of the airplane in the Paul Lawrence Dunbar Library here on campus. So, well, definitely a plane community.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay.
I got some from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, if you would like me to jump in, because I just realized that they are conducting major emergency exercises this week. From WHIO, they will be conducting a scheduled major emergency management exercise. The 88th Air Base Wings Inspection Team will evaluate exercise response throughout Wright-Patterson Air Force Base on Thursday, a Wright-Patterson Air Force Base spokesperson said in a media release. Surrounding communities may hear the sirens or giant voice and are advised it is part of the training exercise unless otherwise noted, the release said.
Oh boy.
Other potential exercise impacts include smoke and fire effects may be employed at the simulated accident location. Emergency response vehicles will be moving around the base. There may be a little bit of travel congestion. Some roadways may be temporarily blocked. Gate traffic could be backed up or rerouted to other entry-level points if a gate is closed, and increased security measures. Right, Pat? Officials are reminding the public that if they hear or experience some of the mentioned effects, that it is a part of the exercise and training event, and they should not call 911 unless, of course, it's an actual emergency.
That
All
sounds
right.
just like really intense.
Yeah, I think what they're doing is like a drill for cleaning up an accident or something, from the sounds of it.
Not necessarily, but yeah, whatever you say.
I'm not entirely sure, but like they said, smoke at an simulated accident location.
Accident scene, yeah, well, it's not necessarily what most people would think. Most people out there are probably thinking maybe car accident or something.
It might be like a
but
building
it's
or
more,
yeah.
I would say it's more structural than anything. And of course, I mean, right, Pat always does, exercises tactically and all that other stuff off and on. Just, everybody has to. I mean, it's kind of like when you went to school and you had to do the fire drills to make sure everybody got quick enough out. I can't talk. Oh my God, got out quick enough. So for the most part, it's more or less just in case something like major happens, they're prepared.
Yeah.
Much like any other air base in the world, everybody's got to do their training.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you think back to like, what was it, like a month ago when they actually did have like that major like lockdown?
The active shooter situation.
Like,
Yeah.
you gotta be prepared for that. And,
Yes. Yep. Got to go through your dress rehearsals just in case.
There were, fortunately, there were no shooters, but they did say that the threat was credible. So I guess that means like something that happened there was definitely perceived
there was
as
potential.
it.
Yeah, definitely potential for it.
Dayton.com says that Stomp is returning to Dayton next week.
Ooh, nice.
This is pretty big news because I know several people who are fans of Stomp. They're returning to the Victoria Theater on October 15th through 17th as courtesy of Dayton Live Project's Unlimited Star attractions. So be sure to check that out.
I think I have the article pulled up that you were trying to talk about earlier, Pat. The Dayton, Oregon District Restaurant Owners Uptown Centerville plan okayed.
Yeah.
So yeah, plans for a 149-seat restaurant owned by the executive chef of a popular upscale Dayton, Oregon District business are moving forward in Uptown Centerville. A proposal for the Manor Restaurant and Bar that Sarslar Restaurant and Lounge co-owner Margaret Blondin, sorry if I mispronounce any of these names, wants to open by combining two historic West Franklin Street buildings, was accepted by a Centerville board Tuesday night. The city's Board of Architectural Review voted 5-0 in favor of a major site plan for the restaurant, which initially was called La Bar. That is so cool. It looks like it's going to be like this major ordeal.
Yeah.
149 seats. That's a lot of dinos.
That's a lot.
Okay, I found the I-75 crash article. One person was taken to the hospital Tuesday night, according to WHIO, after two crashes were reported on Interstate 75 near Nemore Road. Oh, it was two of them. Each crash involved one semi and one car, according to the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. That's not good when there's a semi involved.
No.
The crash happened around 11:30 p.m. and caused backups on the interstate for about 2 hours. One person was taken to the hospital with minor injuries, but that was it. Okay. Not too bad. Ooh, exciting news about the 11th Pavilion. They have the highest attendance in the year 2021 of the 3 years that they've been operating. And I could see that because when I passed by Levitt Pavilion several times on the bus, it was packed over there when they had events. So the Levitt Pavilion is becoming a popular place to go. I think now we should go into global and national news. Jamie, I'll have you cover the New York Times, and then I'll cover Cheddar Need to Know, if that's all right with you.
That is Cool. So this is from the New York Times morning newsletter. It talked a lot first about COVID-19 testing
Mm-hmm.
and just efforts that the government is doing to make rapid testing and like those at-home testing kits that you normally get at CVS and whatnot more accessible to people here in the States, because apparently they're not very accessible.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was like really interesting. It's a very long article, so if you like, you can go on to the New York Times website and read that. Some highlights here. AstraZeneca asked the FDA to authorize an antibody treatment that had reduced the risk of symptomatic COVID by 77% in a trial. Also, more in COVID news, depression and anxiety fell in early 2021 but have been more common during the pandemic than before, the CDC reports. That I'm not too surprised.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you got people who are locked up inside because of the pandemic and don't really have anything to do, I could definitely see. I mean, even I felt a little bit more depressed during the lockdown and during the pandemic. So I could see that.
I could see that, yeah, with all the like jobs, like trouble that has been happening and whatnot. So, yeah. Alrighty, Dr. Francis Collins, who has led the National Institutes of Health under 3 presidents, will step down. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Then they have a little bit here about the
Facebook.
whistleblower ordeal. Francis Hagen, the Facebook whistleblower, told a Senate panel that the company had ignored its harmful effects on young people in pursuit of profit. Mark Zuckerberg rebutted the claims.
I want to interject for a moment here. Democracy Now! On yesterday's edition of the podcast had an interview with, I can't remember if it was the whistleblower herself or if it was somebody else, but they talked about the effects of specifically Instagram on teen suicides, and that according to a recent research, teens who use Instagram have about a 17% higher chance of attempting suicide or developing an eating disorder.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I did a little bit of research on like social media and its effects on people back in the winter when I did an article. I believe it was for The Guardian. It was titled like social media and how it affects politics. It's definitely was interesting. So to see like kind of how that research has panned out.
Yeah.
And I feel like social media has also become more prominent now because of the pandemic, because of lockdown and whatnot. That's how people stay connected. That's how people people are relying on that more now, I feel like, than in general.
Yeah.
So very interesting. Okay, moving on to the debt ceiling situation that is happening, which is kind of important. This is from the Times. President Biden said curbing the Senate filibuster to raise the debt limit was a real possibility. And then, let's see, I had another article about the debt ceiling pulled up from the Washington Post here, and it says 5 ways this debt ceiling standoff could end. And then this is a direct quote from the article. There's no clear resolution in sight for the debt ceiling standoff in Washington, though one is needed fast so that the United States does not default on its loan and plunge into recession. Congress is running out of time to solve this. On Wednesday, Senate Republicans will likely block another Democratic attempt to raise the debt ceiling. It will be the 3rd time to block this in 2 weeks. President Biden on Monday said he can't promise that the United States would avoid defaulting on its loans. Treasury Secretary Janet L. Yellen says the country has until about October 18th to avoid the default. And then they just
the
go
last day of Mercury retrograde.
And then they just like go into some possibilities, like getting rid of the filibuster, getting rid of the debt ceiling altogether, avoiding partial default.
Oof. It's the struggle there in Congress right now.
It is.
Well,
I
the views and opinions of Harmony don't reflect WWSU Radio or its entities. I say let's knock their paychecks down a little bit. They need a little bit of push room there, and if they did that, that would definitely help things out. And if we had a stop on some foolish spending, we'd be just fine. There'd be more than enough.
Well, there's I think it's called the Pandora Papers that were released recently, but they talk about how a lot of companies are trying to swindle tax money. If there was a way to stop that, then they could use the tax money to help cover some of the debt.
Well, here you go. Stop making people pay frickin' taxes, because they're not really supposed to be up. And it was something that was done a long time ago. I'll have to look it up again, but it's definitely interesting on how taxation came about. But, if they didn't charge so friggin' much, then people wouldn't be doing all the stuff that they're doing. That's the problem. If you think about it, I mean, there's a lot of aspects that play into it, but that's a whole nother show. But yeah.
I just feel like it's so high that, they're never probably ever going to be able to pay it off because we're talking about trillions of dollars here. So I just feel like they need to find a way where it's stable again. But it's kind of funny because they're every recent college graduate trying to pay the loans.
Yeah. All right. Shall I go with Cheddar Need to Know?
Sure.
All right. Facebook is under fire. Not a surprise. From The Verge, Mark Zuckerberg is hitting back at claims made by the Facebook whistleblower that the social media giant prioritizes profits over the health of its billions of users and regularly promotes hateful content intended to keep those users hooked. Frances Haugen testified in front of Congress and laid the blame for what she called choices that go against the common good directly at the feet of Zuckerberg. He responded in a letter to employees saying Haugen's claims just aren't true and don't make any sense. Right, so research does not make any sense, huh, Zuckerberg? Zuckerberg should really turn to his Facebook moderators because his Facebook moderators have stories that they could tell about a lot of the stuff that they have to sift through on Facebook. I believe there was a documentary by one of the Facebook moderators released on YouTube about what they had to go through. It is crazy. All right, so could the U.S. Treasury mint a $1 trillion coin to avoid a federal debt default?
I would like to see that.
If Congress doesn't raise the debt ceiling in time. The idea has been gaining traction in some policy circles as a way to get around the possibility of a catastrophic default. In theory, the U.S. Mint could strike a single platinum coin, give it $1 trillion value, and immediately deposit into the Fed. The government would then have enough money to pay its bills without needing Congress. The White House has ruled out the idea, and the Treasury Secretary called it a gimmick. But the fact that they've even weighed it shows that mint the coin movement has entered the mainstream.
What would that even look like? That have to be a large coin.
My fear is that it would drastically increase inflation too. Drastically.
Hyperinflation. Yeah.
How would you I wonder even how much metal would go into.
Yeah, because you're going, unless if you actually find $1 trillion worth of metal or something to put into that coin, you're gonna have hyperinflation if you try and mint that thing.
Yeah, that would be
$1 trillion is a lot.
Just be show up I got $1 trillion coin. That would be hilarious.
That'd be like a huge platinum statue or something like that, or
talk
maybe
about
even bigger
a hole
than that.
in your talk about a hole in your pocket.
Yeah.
To, like,
Wow.
go up to the bank. I got my coin.
You have a whole other like backside to yourself if you had that in your pocket.
Do you have a slot on this ATM machine for trillion-dollar platinum coins?
Can't get a Coke today. Don't have my trillion-dollar coin on me.
I can't get a trillion-dollar Coke today.
Oh, that would be interesting.
China's Air Force, according to Foreign Affairs, have been flying a record number of jets over Taiwan in the last several days ahead of the island's National Day celebrations this week. Beijing's increasingly aggressive posture toward Taiwan, which considers itself a sovereign nation, is raising geopolitical concerns that China could be preparing a military confrontation.
No.
The White House has warned China over its provocations, and Taiwan's president said there would be catastrophic consequences if China were to invade. JP Morgan Chase, the largest bank in the U.S., probably also the reason why you get frustrated every time you look at your mail, is banning business travel and in-person meetings for unvaccinated corporate employees effective immediately. Starting next year, unvaccinated employees will also have to pay for the COVID test that will be required to regularly take in the form of payroll deductions.
Oh, God, here we go.
Yeah. Uh-oh, we got another strike. So yesterday we talked about the Hollywood strike. Apparently now there's a Kellogg's strike.
Oh, God.
Like the
look
cereal?
out.
The cereal, yeah.
Oh.
From NPR, workers at all of Kellogg's U.S. cereal plants have gone on strike, halting production of Frosted Flakes, Rice Krispies, and other brands indefinitely. Looks like you're going to have to turn to another breakfast item. Time to crack out those croissants.
Did you literally just say croissant?
Croissant, yeah.
Croissant.
As a person who speaks French, that low-key, like, caught my heart, but that's fine.
The union is at an impasse with the company over pay and benefits and says its members have had to put in 12-hour days, 7 days a week during the pandemic. Workers at Frito-Lay and Nabisco also recently went on strike over similar issues. Well, there goes the Crescents.
No more corn chips.
Oh, they call it Crescents.
Oh, what?
Pillsbury calls it Crescents. And I'm like,
Croissant.
Like,
what?
croissant.
It's not a moon, it's a biscuit.
As well as protesting plans to make to move some production to Mexico. The Red Sox put an end to the Yankee season in a 6-2 thumping at Fenway to take the American League wildcard game. Boston, which now has eliminated New York in each of their last 3 postseason meets, will go on to play red-hot Tampa Bay in the division series. The Dodgers and Cardinals play tonight for the National League wild card. All right. Well, that concludes today's current events. So we're going to go ahead and take a break on the morning show. And when we come back, we're going to get into our daily dose of inspiration. Today, we're going to be talking about the Japanese idea of Wabi-Sabi, a different way, a different and simplistic way to look at life. So everybody stay tuned. You're listening to the Right Morning Show on WWSU 106.9 FM. Don't go anywhere.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same
And we're back to the Right Morning Show on WWSU 106.9 FM. Welcome back to the Right Morning Show on WWSU 106.9 FM. And it is time for the Daily Dose of Inspiration. Today's topic's pretty interesting because we're going to be talking about Wabi-Sabi.
Not wasabi.
Not wasabi. Not to be confused with wasabi. Although I guess that's an unusual way to view the world as well.
Hot and spicy.
So this article comes from getpocket.com and is written by Lily Crosley Baxter. Wabi-Sabi offers a refuge from the modern world's obsession with perfection and accepts imperfections as all the more meaningful and in their own way beautiful. Withdrawing my hands reluctantly from the slowly spinning bowl, I watched its uneven sides slowly come to a stop, wishing I could straighten them out just a little more. I was in the ancient pottery town of Hagi, in rural Yamaguchi, Japan, and while I trusted the potter who convinced me to let it be, I can't say I understood his motives. Smiling, he announced, "It has wabi-sabi," and whisked the bowl away for firing. I sat contemplating the lack of symmetry and wondering what on earth he meant. As it turns out, failing to understand this phrase is not unusual. A key part of the Japanese aesthetic, the ancient ideals that still govern the norms on taste and beauty in Japan, wabi-sabi is not only untranslatable, but also considered undefinable in Japanese culture. Often muttered in moments of profound appreciation and almost always followed by the word mori, or impossible, when asked to expand, the phrase offers an unusual way to view the world. Originating in Taoism during China's Song dynasty before being passed on to Zen Buddhism, wabi-sabi was originally seen as an austere, restrained form of appreciation. Today, it encapsulates a more relaxed acceptance of transience, nature, and melancholy. For some reason, I saw a C in there that didn't exist. Favoring the imperfect and incomplete in everything, from architecture to pottery and to flower arranging. Wabi, which roughly means the elegant beauty of humble simplicity, and sabi, which means the passing of time and subsequent deterioration, were combined to form a sense unique to Japan and pivotal to Japanese culture. But just as Buddhist monks believed that words were the enemy of understanding, this description can only scratch the surface of the topic. Professor Tanihisa Atapi, who is the professor at Tokyo University's Institute of Aesthetics, suggests that the ancient art of wabi-cha, a style of tea ceremony established by tea masters Murata Juko and Senno Raikyu from the late 15th to 16th centuries, forms a good introduction to wabi-sabi. By choosing common Japanese pottery over the popular and technically perfect imported Chinese examples, the men challenged the rules of beauty. Without bright colors and ornate designs to rely on as signifiers of accepted beauty, guests were encouraged to study subtle colors and textures that would previously been overlooked. As to why they sought imperfect rustic pieces, Professor Atabi explained that wabi-sabi leaves something unfinished or incomplete for the play of imagination. This opportunity to actively engage with something considered to be wabi-sabi achieves three things: an awareness of the natural forces involved in the creation of the piece, an acceptance of the power of nature, and an abandonment of dualism, the belief that we are separate from our surroundings. And combined, these experiences allow the viewer to see themselves as part of the natural world, no longer separated by societal constructs, and instead at the mercy of natural timelines. Rather than seeing dense or uneven shapes as mistakes, they are viewed as a creation of nature, much as moss would grow on an uneven wall or a tree would curve in the wind. The aesthetics of Wabi-Sabi opened our eyes to everyday life and gave us a method of handling what is common in an uncommon aesthetic way, Professor Atabi said, highlighting the importance of acceptance in Japanese culture, a society forced to contend with devastating natural disasters on a semi-regular basis. Rather than casting nature solely as a dangerous and destructive force, it helps frame it as a source of beauty to be appreciated on the smallest of levels. It becomes a provider of colors, designs, and patterns, a source of inspiration, and a force to work alongside rather than against. It is the inevitable mortality bound in nature, however, that is key to true understanding of Wabi-Sabi. As author Andrew Juniper notes in his book Wabi-Sabi, The Japanese Art of Impermanence, it uses the uncomprising touch of mortality to focus the mind on the exquisite transient beauty to be found in all things impermanent. Alone, natural patterns are merely pretty, but in understanding their context as transient items that highlight our own awareness of impermanence and death, they become profound. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to pause there for any thoughts before I continue. So, any initial thoughts on Wabi-Sabi?
I think it's actually insanely beautiful. Like, just
Yeah,
the thought that we are connected with, like, nature and that how imperfections are beautiful. Like, I love that.
yeah,
Hmm. I like the concept because it just not even concept. It's just it is. It just is. I mean, that's all you can say about it, and it's actually refreshing to be able to hear that point of view.
mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I like that a lot. It's very true. Very true.
Continuing on, it is the inevitable mortality bound in nature, however. Oh, I already read that. The idea brought to mind a story a Japanese colleague told me when we discussed Wabi-Sabi. Visiting Kyoto as a teenager, she had hurried through the grounds of Ginkakugi, a wooden Zen temple with quiet gardens, eager to see the more famous Kingakugi,
Kingakugi.
an ornate temple covered in gold leaf and perched above a reflective pond. Bright, stunning, and glamorous, it lived up to her expectations, a far more impressive beauty than its traditional sister temple. A few decades later, she returned to find the gold garish, and while it was certainly eye-catching, there was little beyond the immediate gratification of the gold leaf. Ginkakuhi, however, offered a new fascination. The aged wood held countless hues and patterns, while the Zen moss and dry sand gardens offered a frame for nature's many shapes. Unable to appreciate these things as a child, she had grown to see the ravages of time as a deeper source of beauty, far greater than a two-dimensional flash of gold. Intrigued by the personal element of this appreciation, I contacted artist Kazunori Hamana, whose unique pieces are often considered to have an element of wabi-sabi. As we walked through the grounds of his tumble-down farmhouse in the rural idyll of Izumi in Chiba Prefecture, he agreed with the need for age. You have different feelings when you're young. Everything new is good. But you start to see history develop like a story. After you've grown up, you see so many stories from your family to nature, everything growing and dying, and you understand the concept more than you did as a child. This appreciation for the marks of time is a key feature in Hamana's works, which he chooses to display in derelict Japanese farmhouses, explaining that the wooden doorframes have been blackened by years of smoke from the iori, an indoor hearth, and pointing out how the mud walls have started crumbling. He says he feels the history of the houses led a fitting backdrop to his pieces, avoiding the cold duality of impersonal white gallery spaces. Creating sculptures with natural clay from Shiga, an area with a reputation for high-quality clay and long history of pottery making, Hamada embraces the important Wabi-Sabi concept of mutual creation between man and nature. I design a little at first, but clay is a natural thing, so it changes. I don't want to fight with nature, so I follow the shape and I accept it, he said. Not only does he allow nature to aid in the shaping of his pieces, but in their later appearance too. In an overgrown bamboo forest in the farmhouse grounds, he showed me the pieces he'd chosen to leave outside, buried in the undergrowth for years at a time. There, they've developed unique patterns for extreme temperatures and surrounding plant life, as well as being occasionally broken. Studying them closely, I found that this simply added to the beauty of each piece, with the cracks offering another opportunity to add to the story. Often associated with wabi-sabi is the art of kintsugi, a method of repairing broken pottery using gold or lacquer. The process highlights rather than conceals the cracks, allowing them to become a part of the piece too. When his daughter accidentally broke some of his work, Hamada said, laughing, he decided to leave the pieces outside for a few years, allowing them to be colored and shaped by nature. When it was repaired by a local kintsugi specialist, the different colors created a contrast so subtle, so uneven, that could never have been intentionally created. Embracing the effects of nature and allowing family history to be visible in a piece creates a unique value for something which would in many cultures simply be discarded as worthless. In fact, the term perfect, which stems from the Latin perfectus, means complete, has been placed on an undeserved pedestal in many cultures, especially the West. Prioritizing flawlessness and infallibility, the ideal of perfection creates not only unachievable standards, but misguided ones. In Taoism, since no further growth or development can take place, perfection is considered equivalent to death. While we strive to create perfect things and then struggle to preserve them, we deny their very purpose and subsequently lose the joys of change and growth. Although seemingly abstract, this appreciation of transient beauty can be found in the heart of some of Japan's most simple pleasures. Hanami, the annual celebration of cherry blossoms, involves parties and picnics, boat rides and festivals, all beneath the often already falling petals, considered as beautiful in their haphazard patterns on the floor as they are on the branches. The pure acceptance of a fleeting beauty that would garner no more than a few photos in the West is something of an inspiration. While the appreciation may be tinged with melancholy, its only lesson is to enjoy the moments as they come without expectations. The dents and scratches we bear are all reminders of experience, and to erase them would be to ignore the complexities of life. By retaining the imperfect, repairing the broken, and learning to find beauty in flaws rather than in spite of them, Japan's ability to cope with the natural disasters it so often faces is strengthened. When my bowl from Hagi arrived in the post months later, its uneven edges were no longer a defect, but instead a welcome reminder that life is not perfect, nor should I try and make it so. So that is the article. What do you think?
I really needed that in life. That's just a good reminder that perfection is not always attainable, and it's okay to have flaws. And that's just like really beautiful. I was also like looking up some artwork from this movement, and I feel like I've seen it before at the Dayton Museum, the Dayton Art Museum a few years ago. I don't know if it's still there, but I know that they had like a whole like Japan section.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be kind of beautiful to like see again.
Yeah. I think one of my main takeaways from the article is that, imperfection is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
You you could turn anything that that you would initially see as a mistake or something unusual. You could turn it into something, really cool. Just like with the whole pottery and having cracks in it, you can make it look beautiful with that lacquer or that gold. You don't have to discard the pot or remake a pot. What do you think, Harmony?
I basically will say perfection is a flaw within itself.
Yeah.
But our flaws and little idiosyncrasies or, whatever we consider a flaw is actually something that makes us very unique. It gives us depth and character. And that's what I feel. And it's funny that they mention how they kind of fill in the cracks, because I knew somebody that when she bought her house, there were some cracks on this wall by the window. And instead of filling them in, she actually went ahead and turned the cracks into the wall into like a little painting of like little flowers and branches. And when people would come over, they'd ask her where she got that picture. She's like, no,
that's
just
funny.
cracks in the wall.
That's funny. That's pretty cool, too.
Evidently, she was practicing Wabi-Sabi, not even knowing that she was practicing it. So how awesome is that?
Also on the note of Wabi-Sabi, I've seen a few photo galleries of women turning their stretch marks after childbirth into really cool body paintings.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. I think maybe a couple of them might have even made tattoos out of them. I can't remember off the top of my head because it's been a couple of years since I've seen it, but I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, it's different.
All right. Well, that is your moment of Wabi-Sabi, so we're going to go ahead and take a break on the Wright Morning Show. When we come back, it is Wright State Wednesday, so Jamie's going to be covering the latest Wright State happenings and news. So stick around. You're listening to the Wright Morning Show on WWSU 106.9 FM.
They say singing can help you remember things, so here's some tips for parents out there during these tough times. Number 1, make sure your kids wash their hands for 20 seconds after they've coughed or sneezed or been outside. 2, virtual play dates. Social and physical distancing can help save lives. 3, tell them they're safe and show your love and pride. Yes, we'll get through this together. Find out more at coronavirus.gov. A message from the CDC and the Ad Council.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone.
Done.
By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Social distancing slows the spread of coronavirus, so if you have a fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going in. More info at coronavirus.gov. Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question,
And we're back to the Wright Morning Show on WWSU 106.9 FM. Welcome back to the Wright Morning Show on WWSU 106.9 FM. It is time for Wright State Wednesday, so I'm going to take the mic over now to Jamie to talk about the latest happenings in news articles in the Guardian Media Group and around campus. So take it away, Jamie.
Hello again. So again, all these articles can be found on wsuguardian.com. You can also view them and follow us on at WSU Guardian on all platforms, Facebook, Twitter, you have it, also on TikTok. So there's that. And the first article that I want to cover actually went out this morning. And it is the Wright State celebrates unveiling of historic NPHC plots. This one's actually by me. So
Shameless promotion.
shameless plug. Well, I can even talk a little bit more about the ceremony because I was there and it was really cool. But I'll just read a little bit from the article first here. Wright State University becomes the first predominantly white Ohio public institution to unveil its National Panhellenic Council plots. The NPHC plots celebrate black and brown fraternities and sororities. And this idea has actually been in the process for quite some time. And it's been a project that has been, that a lot of people on campus have been wanting for quite a bit. And as I said before, I was actually at the ceremony on Saturday afternoon, and there were a lot of people there, but it was also so intimate and emotional because this is so important to the black and brown community here on campus, and even for alumni were there, family were there, friends were there. So I think was just a really important symbol and event for diversity and inclusion on campus. So definitely, if you want to check out that article, again, it's on WSU Guardian, talking about the NPHC plots there.
You could also check it out outside on campus. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's open. They're definitely open. So it's by University Hall, and yeah, they're beautiful. And in the spring, they mentioned how they're gonna have like flowers and landscaping for it. So
Very cool.
it will definitely look very cute in the spring. Alrighty. This next article is by Brendan Blankenship, and it's WSU and Clark State renew partnership for 2+2 program. Wow, that was a bit. Wright State University and Clark State Community College held a signing ceremony to renew the partnership, the 2+2 program, on October 1st, 2021. WSU and CSC created the 2+2 program to make it easier for students to transfer from Clark State to Wright State. Wright State President Edwards said that the relationship between these two universities is important. So that is very cool. So I know here at Wright State we get a lot of our student body population from transfer students and from students going from two-year schools or two-year degree programs at Clark State, at Sinclair, and then coming here afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So that is very cool. Alrighty, and this next one is also a news article. I love it because it's ironic. I am reading this as I am actually drinking coffee. But this one's titled "A Prevalent Addiction on College Campuses: Caffeine." This one's by Kaylee Rains. I definitely feel this one. Okay. At Wright State University, there are numerous coffee shops for students and staff to enjoy. However, experts assert that excessive caffeine consumption can be detrimental to one's health. WSU Professor Patrick Samenta teaches several behavioral neuroscience courses related to psychopharmacology and is knowledgeable about the effects of caffeine consumption. Samel asserts that one of the biggest issues that results from routine caffeine consumption is tolerance. So I'm actually not surprised to hear that college students have a caffeine addiction.
See,
No,
go ahead.
I don't think it's just college students that have the caffeine addiction. If you look deeper into the research, the whole freaking world is addicted to caffeine. We're looking for that fake high and energy rush because everybody is so out of balance and out of sync from, running around having these really crazy schedules that they can't really keep, to no sleep, that you have to stay keyed up half the time. And then the rest of the world's addicted to CBD on top of it, because you got to come down sometime.
Yeah.
So if they're not jittering, they're just like mellowing in the corner, sliding down the corner. So, but yeah, I think everybody's trying to like just keep up and keep calm, and it's just the two clash. So we got to do something about that.
On the note of caffeine addiction, what I tend to do is, first off, if I do consume caffeine, I limit myself to under 100 milligrams per day. Secondly, I don't consume caffeine every day. I give myself breaks, because as Jamie mentioned, if you continually drink caffeine, you're going to build a tolerance to caffeine. So if you give your body off days, then it's less likely for you to get dependent on it. There is some research that suggests a little bit of caffeine in a day's time is good for you, but just a little bit. Like, we're talking a very small amount, like 1 cup of coffee.
Not like me
amount.
chugging like 3 cups of coffee on
Yeah,
the daily.
not 3 cups of coffee.
It's like just one. This next article I'm only gonna briefly mention because there's a beautiful photograph attached, so I highly recommend that you go on and view this. But it's just the events on campus for week of October 4th, a Wright Life article by Alexis Whistler. And again, we go and cover a lot of these events, so if you would like to see like more pictures or anything for that, definitely follow us on all of our socials. Shameless plug there, but our social team and our photography team and our video team do such a great job just like taking amazing photos of these events. So very cool. Okay. This one's kind of cool. There was a professor spotlight done on Aaron Flanagan. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that name. Let's see. This one's by Erica Jones. Professor Aaron Flanagan is an introduction and advanced fiction writing professor at Wright State University with 2 published short story collections, 1 published novel, and a 2nd published novel in the works. That's
nice.
So cool. That's a lot of books. And a lot of written works. And this article just talks about her as a professor and her as a person, and has all her books and whatnot. So definitely go check that out.
Yeah, the profiles are really interesting to read. The Wright State Newsroom also has a few profiles every now and then as well.
I think it's just always interesting to kind of get to know more about the people like on Wright State's campus, and like who am I passing by every single day? Like who do I see every single day? I think that's always like really cool. And there's also a lot of people who are always doing a lot of different things that you otherwise wouldn't know about. I know we're running out of time here, but if you get a chance, definitely check out our GTV behind the scenes with the 2021 homecoming court video. It is so funny. Our social media manager, Holly Hewitt, went around and just basically asked the homecoming court like all these random questions, and it's a good time. It's a good laugh.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
I think it was I believe one of the questions was, what would you do with an elephant if you couldn't like get rid of it?
You would eat it one bite at a time?
Oh, deal. I hope not. Yeah, but that's just some Wright State highlights and some of what's going on campus. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, it is getting time to close off the Wright Morning Show for today. So everybody, thank you for tuning in. But first off, quick look at your forecast. It is currently cloudy and 67 degrees. The forecast for today calls for a little bit of rain. So it's going to be cloudy otherwise, but there's a slight chance of rain. So be on the lookout for that. Coming up next on WWSU Radio is the Democracy Now! Podcast for today. So get your latest current events and special guest interviews on Democracy Now! By Amy Goodman and Juan Gonzalez. From 1 to 2 p.m., Shay Neal, our GM, is going to be on the air with On the Horizon, which is a sports talk show, and I am almost certain he's going to be covering the Boston Red Sox defeating the Yankees in the wild card.
Sounds like they got yankied.
We all were rooting for the Yankees to lose. We do not like the Yankees here. The Guardian Media Group is having their Raider Report from 3 to 4 p.m. on WWSU Radio, so be sure to check that out. They're going to be covering more in depth some of these articles that Jamie mentioned about what's happening on campus. And then finally, from 4 to 6 p.m. is the Dayton Scene Radio Show. So enjoy some really good funk music and Dayton's funk scene. Get some interviews with funk artists here in the Dayton area as well. And that is hosted by David Webb. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this edition of the Wright Morning Show. We're here every morning from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., except for Monday mornings. So stick around. We'll see you again tomorrow. Have a great day.